How are you doing this morning, Monica?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for doing my first ever live with me.
I'm no expert either, so we'll get through this together. I'm
Okay, good.
delighted to be here. Thank you.
So, can you introduce yourself for everyone? Like, I already mentioned you're the co-founder, co-CEO of Alloy, but your background and the history and like why you wanted to start Alloy is really just a great story.
Sure. Well, my name is Monica Molenaar. I am 50 years old. I went into menopause 10 years ago, surgically when I was 40. I had my ovaries removed after a positive BRCA diagnosis. So I have the breast cancer gene. My mother and my grandmother both had breast cancer very young. And I was always followed from the time that I was 25 as if I had the gene, but I wasn't willing really to do. First of all, there was a lot less information at the time, as a lot of what we know now is really very recent, actually,
Yeah.
even in terms of having identified this gene. But the only thing that I could do beyond sort of regular surveillance was something surgical, and whether that was an ovarectomy or a mastectomy, I have now since had both. But I started with my ovaries, getting my ovaries removed, and that sent me into menopause the next day, which none of the medical practitioners prepared me for.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how it's really changed my life, actually, this journey, and also my skin. I've been thinking a lot about my skin, obviously, and I think that one of the things that actually has kind of saved my skin is that I never went through perimenopause. So I have been on a steady
That's
diet
interesting.
of estrogen for the last 10 years, and I do think that, obviously using topical estrogen has helped, and we've seen the results, but just being on a sort of consistent dose of estrogen and not having to go through the ups and downs of perimenopause is actually sort of an interesting thing.
Yeah, I've
But
never thought about that, but that would be an interesting journey to reflect
yeah,
back on, especially hearing what
totally.
other women are dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I was motivated to start Alloy because after really, it took me, well, I didn't get a prescription for HRT immediately after my surgery, so I went through the crisis period of really not knowing which direction was up, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
getting very having kind of emotional distress, just really not being able to kind of deal with the symptoms. I wasn't sleeping very well or at all. And I gained a lot of weight. Like I really was struggling with just menopause in general, and luckily had a across the hall neighbor in my apartment building in New York who was 10 or 15 years older than me and saw me one day looking like crap and put her arm around me literally and was like, I'm going to take care of you and help you get through this, and knew exactly what I was going through and was really instrumental in sort of helping me get the help that I needed. But once I entered the kind of the medical system of looking for HRT, even though I was 40 years old, we knew exactly what was going on with me. I wasn't making estrogen anymore. It still was impossible to get a clear and straight answer out of any of the multitude of doctors that I went to
Mm-hmm.
sort of solve my problems. And either it was like, first I was prescribed compounded hormones, and then my OB said, you can't take hormones at all, you have the BRCA gene, it's going to give you breast cancer. Then but I was like, I can't survive without this. So I went to another doctor who said, well, you shouldn't take compounded hormones, you should take FDA approved, like you should use the patch,
Mm-hmm.
and she actually gave me synthetic hormones that weren't bioidentical, which now I know there are obviously bioidentical FDA approved hormones. But I really went through all the sort of ups and downs and like ins and outs that most women seem to be going through, because as we also now know, and now that I've been doing this for the last 5 years, doctors just really aren't trained in menopause and about estrogen or hormones. Like all of that kind of went away for the last 20 years to the big detriment of women. And so what I really wanted to do with Alloy was to create a supportive place where women could get really credible, up-to-date information, direct access to medical expertise that could follow them over a period of time and through the journey, of course, of going through menopause, which is not a one-day event. It's a
Mm-hmm.
5, 10, 20, 30, however long you're going to be living from this period forward, you will be in
Mm-hmm.
menopause. So it's,
Absolutely.
the way that the medical system is set up right now doesn't really allow for women to have a relationship with a doctor over time any longer, which is too bad. And also then access to the prescription solutions like hormone therapy that are so essential to feeling well and to preserving your health span over a long period of time. So that was kind of the real motivation behind Alloy, and also creating a brand that felt resonant and like, this is something I want to be a part of. This is a community that I can, relate to. This is a brand that resonates with me. And doesn't feel like something that's sort of an old lady brand, or, I'm not ready for this yet. Like, as I said, I'm 50 and I still feel very young and vital, and have actually finally like really hit my professional stride, and all these things that sort of happened later for me,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is true for a lot of women, that, we spend the first maybe 50 years of our lives developing, raising children, being in marriages, relationships, like trying to sort of create the thing that is our life. And
Yep.
then at a certain point, you also have to live it. And so that's what we're really here to do for at Alloy, is to empower women to be able to live their lives fully and feel comfortable and confident in the information that they're receiving and the help that they're getting.
That is like the DNA I sense
Yeah,
about Alloy. This is not a product company. It is a lifestyle for women, and it's here to like educate and inform us, to give us the information so like we can just make our own choices after that.
totally.
But I really just appreciate the amazing content you guys put out with all the experts. You talked about how you were introduced before to estradiol in Europe, I think it is, right? And the effects of what it could do to the skin. It's kind of amazing to me that we have had this product out for decades, and it's really only now that women are learning about using it on their skin. And we've struggled with so many other topicals and products when this is one of the things that we absolutely need. Like, this is a key component for why our skin just isn't looking as healthy and as vibrant as it used to. Can you just describe that a little, and how that like started the idea for M4?
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, it really, once you understand how estrogen works actually, and how important it is in the body, all over your body, you, first of all, you sort of can't unsee. You're like, oh, wow, that's why, first of all of these old tropes about like women being dried up and old, and,
Hmm.
that's, it's kind of true, because estrogen is responsible for hydrating cells. It creates the collagen in the cells and the hyaluronic acid in your own body that keeps your skin plump and vital, and, able to sort of withstand the all the barrier sort of pressures that we have from the world. The story about behind M4 was that, as I mentioned, I've been taking HRT, menopausal hormone treatment, for the last 10 years. And I am a New Yorker, as you can hear. I'm not European, but I do live in Europe right now. And my husband is Dutch. And after 22 years of living in New York together, we decided to make the move and be closer to his family and friends for a period of time, or forever, who knows. But anyway, before our kids left the house. And I accidentally got a prescription for my systemic estrogen, HRT, that was half my normal dose. So I had been taking for the prior 8 years a milligram a day. And then for 3 months, I started taking half a milligram a day accidentally. Like, I just sort of picked up the wrong prescription and didn't realize. And I lost all control of my bladder. And we know that estrogen is very important for the normal functioning of your genitourinary reproductive tract, your vaginal skin, your bladder, it's why older women who aren't treating with vaginal estrogen get some recurrent UTIs. You can die from that. Like, it's a really huge problem, actually. But I hadn't personally had those symptoms up until that point. And until I had too little estrogen, I was like, oh my God, this is, I've never experienced this before. And this is really serious. And I obviously can't be going around peeing in my pants all day long, which is
Uh-huh.
what literally was happening. And because I was in Europe, I had to get a prescription here. And it turns out that while at Alloy we sell, and in the United States, the generic sort of vaginal cream is estradiol.
Mm-hmm.
In Europe, the approved estrogen cream for vaginal use is made with estriol, which is a different form of estrogen. It's one that your body makes naturally, but it's less prevalent. It's typically surges when you're pregnant, which is another reason why pregnant women generally have quite good
Yeah.
skin. Yes, look radiant, look, flush and plump. And so anyway, I used the vaginal cream as prescribed on my vaginal area and for my bladder, and never peed in my pants again. It was that remarkable. And knowing, of course, being so immersed in the world of estrogen and the world of menopause, having become kind of an estrogen activist at this point, I really understand how estrogen works and what it does and why it was working in the
Mm-hmm.
skin in my vaginal area. And so I thought, well, if this was so successful so quickly, let me see what happens if I put it on my face. It's just cream. And so I started using it on my face, and within 2 months, like, the results were visible. People were stopping me on the street and saying, wow, you look amazing. What do you do with your skin? No one could believe that I'm 50. Well, I guess at the time I was 48, but still
Close enough.
late 40s,
Uh-huh.
when your skin typically starts to dry up or decline. And obviously, like, taking systemic hormones also helps maintain your skin. But as we know from the vaginal area and what is FDA approved for that many women, most women will need additional support. When you take systemic hormones, it has to work everywhere. And so for, local application, you do need some extra. And so it was such a miraculous change to the skin on my face, but the cream wasn't that nice.
Right.
That's why we decided to formulate M4 and really start pioneering the use of topical estrogen, which we knew from from vaginal estrogen cream that it's not systemic. It can be used by anybody. It's really helpful, and we know how it works. But we got some pushback on that, because there aren't a lot of studies
Right.
on using topical estrogen for areas other than vaginal use. And so that's why we decided to launch this independent study with an independent researcher, double-blind, placebo-controlled, 3-arm study where we actually compared estriol to estradiol to see if there was a big difference. And that's what we're announcing today, is the results of that study. And it's so unbelievably exciting, because what we proved is that it's safe and it works.
Yeah, and I just want to go over a little bit about the details of how the study was done. I mean, it took me a little while to understand this and to become more educated about the study space and the trial space. Most companies do not invest this level of resource into studying an ingredient or a product because it is incredibly time consuming and
Yeah,
expensive.
I
So that,
confirm.
and
It's true.
additionally, when I look at the study and I read it, it was, as you mentioned, double blind with 3 arms. So we're talking estriol, estradiol, placebo, and it went on for 12 weeks with an institutional review board. And a lot of, you'll see cosmetic products and the ad will say, 97% of the participants saw an improvement or say they, and what you really want is not the participants, but for an expert to be determining if there was an improvement or a positive outcome. And so, when I think about this and all the resources that went behind this study, it really is a standout study, one that you would be able to submit for peer review into a journal publication. I mean, that is the level of this study. And 90 participants is maybe the largest study that I've come across just in my research of topical estrogen. So I do think that the news is incredible. And the most important part, like you mentioned, was the safety. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
So one of the things, absolutely, that we really wanted to show is that using topical estrogen at this dose does not get absorbed into your bloodstream. So even if you're using systemic hormones, you can also use this, and it only applies and sort of it only treats the area where it's applied locally in the same way
Mhm.
that vaginal estrogen does. Um, you know, raising your level of estrogen a little bit isn't unsafe, or not necessarily unsafe, but we wanted to, to be able to really roll this out and communicate to people like this is only treating your skin. You're not going to, this is not like at levels where you can change gender, or this is really a topically applied skin treatment. And so we tested everybody's blood. We used LabCorp, so a nationally recognized lab, to do both test estriol levels at the baseline and after 12 weeks of use, daily use. And there was no increase estrogen level of either estriol or estradiol in anyone's blood in either arm. And obviously not in the placebo arm, but in either of the estrogen arms, there was no increase in people's blood absorption or serum estrogen level,
Yeah,
which
and I
is
think
really
that
important.
that is really the number one concern people have, and legitimately so, right? Is am I going to have an increase in estrogen systemically? And I didn't know this, like this is all new material to us too, but what I've learned along the way is we have estrogen receptors all over, including our
Everywhere.
skin. So we don't need systemic absorption for us to benefit from a topical estrogen product. And
Correct.
like
Yeah.
I feel like I have proof of that because I have been using it and it has just given me the most supple skin.
Yeah.
Um, can
Incredible.
you
Well,
can
the
you
other
talk
thing that
about
we wanted to do in the study was to sort of remove as many variables as possible.
Mhm.
And obviously, like this is one study, hopefully of many. There's a lot more to learn. We've just been so deficient, honestly, in studies and in research
Yeah,
generally for the last 20 years in particular. So it's not
absolutely.
like now we know everything. I mean, now we know a lot more, and there's always a lot more to learn. But the way that we set it up was that we only enrolled women who were not also
Mhm.
taking systemic hormones,
Okay.
who were postmenopausal,
Hmm.
who had signs of photoaging already. And so that way, at least we could sort of remove some of the variables that could be confounding if someone also was taking estrogen, for example.
Hmm.
We know that estrogen, you can take systemic hormones and use topical estrogen. It's not
Hmm.
going into the bloodstream, as we keep saying over and over again. So it really is only improving the elasticity, the hydration, the structure, the sort of the radiance, the thickness of your overall skin health.
And these numbers that you guys have found in the study, they are impressive. We're not talking 12%. You know what I'm saying? Like they're impressive. And I think what also like is incredible is this is from a topical product, right? Like this is showing such an improvement just from topical use. Do you want to go through the numbers, Monica? Like the
Sure.
elasticity, the hydration, do you have those out?
Yeah, I
Okay,
do have them out. And also what I think is interesting, sorry, need to readjust here, but
that's
um,
okay.
what is interesting is what we found is that the real difference came out after 8 weeks, between 8 and 12 weeks. And
Hmm.
so what that also suggests to us, and also what I know from my 2 years of using this, is that the longer you use it, the better it works, and the
Hmm.
sort of the more permanent the effects are. So it's not like typically with a moisturizer or something, you use it, it gets absorbed, and then it only stays on the
Right.
top layer of your skin,
You
whereas
got to
this
put it on
really,
again.
yeah, and this really starts to kind of get into the layers, the deeper dermal layers of your skin. So what we found, comparing the estriol, I'm going to give you the estriol numbers because
Hmm.
that's what is in
Four.
M4
Yep.
versus the cream base alone. So in each arm, we also use the same cream, which
That's
is a really nice
the
cream.
base
The base
cream
was the
of
same
M4.
of
Yep.
M4. So we
Hmm.
use the same base. One arm was just the base, the other was the base plus estriol, and the third was the base plus estradiol. So
And then,
in the
Monica,
estriol,
sorry to interrupt. I just want to point this out because I think it's important. The participants were asked to not use any other actives
correct,
so that there wouldn't be any confusion that it was something
correct.
else. Yeah. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Sorry. Go
So it
ahead,
was,
Monica.
yeah. So there was an 88% improvement in skin elasticity from baseline. There was a 70% improvement in hydration. There was a 57% improvement in skin texture, which I totally agree with. 48% improvement in radiance and a 68% improvement in overall skin health.
Yeah.
And there was there wasn't like damage to the dermal barrier. So the skin stayed really healthy and strong.
I hear a lot of people say they feel like their pore size is smaller,
Mm-hmm.
which of course, improves the texture and the radiance of the skin. I definitely have experienced the hydration. It is the most hydrated my skin has felt in literally
Me
decades.
too.
So yeah, so these numbers are incredible, especially given no systemic absorption, no safety issues whatsoever. And so, I think people wonder when they should start using this product. Is it like almost? I am really of the mindset that you don't want to try to treat something after the fact, that you want to get
Me
ahead of it.
too.
It's a lot easier if you're ahead of it. So, based on this information, when is Alloy recommending women start using M4 or topical estrogen?
I mean, certainly you can use it, you can start whenever, and it will always be helpful. So that's great. There's no age cutoff back to, it's not systemically absorbed, it's not going to interfere with, other medications or anything. So you really could start whenever. If it were me, and now knowing the information that I have, you don't know when you start perimenopause, but I would start as early in that kind of perimenopausal transition as possible
Mm-hmm.
so that I could kind of maintain my skin from a good place, as opposed to allowing it to get drier, wrinkled, lose the collagen. You lose 30% of your dermal collagen within the first 5 years of going into menopause.
Right.
So if you can head that off, it's with a really nice cream that makes your skin feel amazing and,
Mm-hmm.
like makes you happy to go out into the world with how you're showing up with, like in this package, it's great.
Yeah.
So I would start as soon as possible. To be perfectly frank, my husband uses it as well.
Oh,
And I've
yeah.
used it even on my teenage boys, like, because it doesn't enter the bloodstream. So I saw some comments about, does it help with acne? It actually helped with their acne scars, and sort of smoothing, because it's really nice, good, helpful for the texture of your skin. That that's totally off label. That was not in our study. This is just me being a bit of a renegade, but like using the science to be able to sort of be creative with how we apply it. So I think that the sooner the better, but it's never too late.
Yeah. And how do you specifically use the Monica? Like, can you talk about how you layer the products that you have like in your skincare
Yeah.
lineup?
Um, for the most part, I mainly just use M4. I have started to try to use some other things. Like, we now have tretinoin, which I know is really helpful. And there are a lot of great studies about tretinoin. I personally find that it's a bit irritating for my skin. So, and the M4 has zero irritation factor. So, but I use tretinoin a little bit less. I started using vitamin C serum, which also I think helps with radiance, but it's the I've never been a huge skincare
Hmm.
addict because I've never really seen results like this. I haven't been devoted to a specific product because nothing works the way that I've seen with M4.
Hmm.
So, it basically, like, a moisturizer is a moisturizer in a certain
Hmm.
respect, and but nothing has been as dramatic as what I've seen with using topical estrogen.
So I'll just explain quickly how I use it in case people are wondering how to layer their skincare
Yeah,
product. I
me
use it
too.
twice
I'll
a
learn
day.
something from you.
So I use it twice a day. And also, I do want to point out in this study, they used more than they typically would, and they still did not have systemic absorption, right? I just want to mention
Correct.
that. So for
Yeah.
people who are worried, like, oh, if I go over a tiny bit, could it potentially cause some
No.
harm or something? No.
Yeah.
So I use it in the morning and I use it at night. At night, I will put it on either as the first layer, or I will put glycolic acid and then layer up after that. And what I like about it is the formula dries down very quickly, and it is a very elegant formulation. It's not sticky, it
Exactly.
spreads very easily. So a little will give you a lot of coverage as well. And then after it dries down, I just follow up with my normal nighttime routine. So I will put a serum on top of that, then moisturizer. Some people don't use moisturizer with it. I like to actually put a moisturizer on top. I do eye cream, and I do, this is what I call the face from the tip to the nip. I mean, like, this is your face,
Totally.
right? This whole
100%.
area, because this all
Oh
starts
yeah,
to
it's
show
really, I
aging very
definitely use
quickly
it. I use it
right
here for
here.
sure
Yeah.
on my neck. I use it on my chest. I specifically sort of focus on this area here because I've noticed that like these little lines, if this is more tight, if this is tighter, then this all sort of, you know, comes
Yeah.
back in a really nice way.
Yeah.
Um, I use it like very specifically on my eyelids and under
Mm-hmm.
my eyes. I also use it at least twice a day. Um, and we did use in the study, we instructed people to use 3 times as much as what we typically recommend, which is
Mm-hmm.
at least a pump a day. And I think a pump a day will give you good results, more will give you better results. And
Mm-hmm.
so it really depends on how much you want to use personally.
Yeah, for sure. And for people who are asking about using it with Tret, I do use it with Tret. And the thing that I have found using it with retinoids is because it is so hydrating, you are able to use retin-A's, tretinoin, retinoids more often than you were before. That's the
Yeah.
case for me. So I alternate nights between glycolic acid and tretinoin. And the reason I'm talking about glycolic acid is because there is a pretty well-known study talking about the benefit of glycolic acid with a topical estrogen cream.
Yep.
So I go back and forth, and I don't need to take nights off where I'm only moisturizing anymore because it is just that hydrating. That's the
That's
biggest change
fantastic.
I've seen. Yeah,
Amazing.
which is incredible.
Yeah.
And then in the mornings, I put it on after my vitamin C topical, and then just do the skincare routine as usual. So that's
Yeah.
how I've done it. Let's see. I want to go through some of the questions that we're getting, and like this one, M4, help to decrease perimenopausal hormonal breakouts. Do you guys know anything about? And I did see another question about acne as well. Do you know anything about that, Monica?
We didn't specifically study acne and we didn't specifically study perimenopause,
Mm-hmm.
so I think we have not seen in the 18 months that we've been that we've been selling M4, we have not had any um, comments about acne or any increase in acne. We didn't see any evidence of that in the study. So I can't say for sure. Everybody is an individual, and I do want to stress that, like, everybody will have individual results. Everybody has their own individual skin. I saw some questions about pigmentation and melasma. We also did not see any evidence of increase in pigmentation, darkened spots, or melasma in the study.
Mm-hmm.
And we know many, again, like we have thousands of people who are using this now. We've had maybe a handful of people who have come back and said that it did. They saw an increase in their melasma, and then we say, then stop
Stop.
using it.
Yeah.
But of the thousands of people, I can think of maybe 3 or 4 comments that we've gotten from women about melasma specifically and hyperpigmentation. And in the study itself, there was no evidence of an increase in hyperpigmentation.
Okay.
But
And
again,
then,
there's more research that needs to be done. Everybody's an individual. We can't say that 100% there's no chance of this whatsoever. But
yeah.
what we do know also about how estrogen is metabolized is, like, if you stop using it, it will be as if you never used it. So, you're obviously over a period of time. I've been using it for 2 years now. If I don't use it for a period of a day or a few days, my skin doesn't go back to what it was. But if I stopped using it for a longer period of time, then you lose the benefits of the estrogen in your cells.
Like everything in life, right?
Like
Literally, yeah, everything.
like also with systemic hormones, if you stop
That's,
taking estrogen, you
that's
lose
right.
the protective
Hmm.
benefits to your bones, your brain, your heart, all of those things. So
Hmm.
that's why you need to take it for the rest of your life in order to maintain the benefits. And that's the same with topical estrogen. In order to maintain the benefits and the protection that you get from it, you do need to keep using it.
Yeah. And can we talk about estriol versus estradiol? That is something that we see coming up over and over again because in Europe, they are using estriol. In the US, we use estradiol, which you talked about. And um, I have both. I have the vaginal, estradiol, and I do use the M4. I have tried using the vaginal cream before I got M4. And what I will say in my experience, it's way too thick, sticky, not spreadable. It's just not a pleasant
Right.
experience for me to use. In the same way that, like, if I had a hydration issue, I wouldn't put Vaseline on.
Right.
Like it will do the trick, right? But it's not an elegant formulation for what I'm looking for. But there's actually some more science even behind that we talked about, Monica. Can you go over that in terms of like the difference of skin between our vaginal skin, our facial skin, how that responds to estrogen? I think the science is really interesting.
So the vaginal skin has a mucosa barrier, mucosa membrane, and your facial skin or non-vaginal skin has a stratum corneum membrane. And so the products, the vehicle that is used, the cream base is formulated to absorb better per type of skin. So the reason why the vaginal cream is so much thicker and oilier is that it needs to penetrate, it needs to kind of stay in that mucosa area and kind of bind to this vertical chamber, I guess, and then it needs to absorb into the skin. Whereas the M4 cream and a more moisturizing sort of facial cream is formulated to penetrate different type of skin without that mucosa barrier and to be able to get absorbed by the skin cells there. So it's just there are different types of skin, different areas in sorry, I'm getting a lot of beeps here.
That's okay.
Notifications that I had turned off, but um, that's why there are different formulations for different areas of skin, and we wanted to make something that back to like why we created Alloy. We are all customers. Like my partner and I, we're in this life stage. We're going through it. We went through menopause differently. She entered it naturally through perimenopause. I obviously went through it surgically. And so it's important to us that we create something that we want because, like when else do you have the opportunity to actually kind of do this type of thing where you're actually solving your own problem in a way
Hmm.
that is that works for us. Like it's convenient, it's inexpensive, it's you get direct access to the doctor, it's you can do it from your home, you don't have to go to a pharmacy and pick up the products. Like it's you can ask your questions over the year that you have the duration of your
Hmm.
prescription. So we're really trying to be there for women and and sort of give them and ourselves what we're looking for, because as we all know, the medical system is broken, and the technology is here, and so we're able, and the problem is big enough, and the need is large enough that we're really trying to be more elegant and more and smarter about both the products that we put out, but also how the service um, is sort of is offered to women.
Yeah. And I know that you necessarily can't speak to this, Monica, but I do hear so many women saying they wish they could get it abroad. I mean, I
Yeah.
just get that from people in Canada, Europe, all the time, wishing they can get this product abroad. Is there any, I know you guys are such a new company, is there any chance that you might be expanding to ship overseas? Obviously, it's a little different because it's a pharmaceutical product and all that, but
Yeah,
it is a question I get asked
it's
constantly.
difficult because it's a pharmaceutical product. We actually wanted to do a study, not in the United States. We were talking to some labs around the world, and even just kind of getting the product and shipping pharmaceuticals from one country
Mhm.
to another is something that is very difficult to manage. It's definitely on our horizon and something that we talk about, think about. The need in the United States is pretty great. So we're, that's where we're addressing our focus first, because that's where we're from, and where we established the company. But me being outside of the United States, I'm certainly more than aware of how great the need is elsewhere, and so it's definitely on our roadmap.
So what's next for Alloy? Because I know this can't be it. And we talked about how there's just so little information out there for women. It's just honestly a travesty that this is the way middle-aged women have been just treated for so long. And
Yeah.
I feel like we are absolutely the generation that is changing things, right? Like Gen X women are changing it for all the women behind us. And so what is Alloy planning next?
Well, I can't tell you all of our secrets, but I think that we will continue to lean into really meeting women where they are, getting them the solutions that they're looking for and that they're asking for, and reducing all of the shame and stigma that goes around, you know, this this really natural life stage. But that doesn't mean that just because it's natural, you don't need treatments and solutions right now that will also make you feel better and kind of spark your joy later on. So we're big believers in improving health span. We're big believers in community and women helping women. We do a lot of support groups. We do, obviously, as you've mentioned, lots of education, webinars, in-person events, just really bringing women together to talk about all of these issues, and give them the information that they need to empower them to make decisions for themselves. And I think, the skin has been a really gratifying and innovative and creative product for us, because we're really bringing back something that has kind of been hiding in plain sight for decades. It actually, I think we talked about this the other day, that from the 1940s, when estrogen was first introduced, to the late 1990s, when it was actually regulated by the FDA, along with all of every other hormone, essentially, irrespective of dose or use or form, or whether it's injected or topical, like they all got regulated in the same way. But up until that point, all of the cosmetics companies like Revlon and Estee Lauder and Helen and Rubinstein used estrogen as their anti-aging ingredient. And it was taken for granted that this was the thing that was going to really save your skin and make you feel and look younger, more vibrant. And for me, it's less about, like, I don't need to be 25. I'm actually very happy being 50, but I'd like to be the best looking 50 that I could be. Um, if people think I'm 45 or 40, that's fine too. And that's kind of where I'm at. But, then it was really taken off the table entirely by the Women's Health Initiative, and the reports that came out of that study, which basically, maligned estrogen in all doses and all forms for everybody really incorrectly. And we've really been just digging ourselves out of that for the last several years. I think we've kind of reached a tipping point now where the science is really there. The information is, especially through conversations like this, is starting to get out to a much wider audience. We know that this is safe, this is effective. There's zero reason why women shouldn't have access to it. And so we're like, here, if you want it, you can have it. We're not going to gatekeep. We're not going to gaslight. Obviously, this is a prescription product. We have really expert doctors on our platform who read every medical intake, who ask questions of women if there's something that's unclear, who we're not just throwing it at anybody, but
Hmm.
especially something like M4 should be available to anybody who wants it, and we're not going to, make it hard to
Yeah.
get.
And it is, I know you guys are running a special promo, $20 off. I'm seeing it come up on here. So I just want to say that so people know this is a great time to try it if this is something you're interested in. And the reason I talk about it so much, Monica, is because you're right. This information was essentially like it was gate kept from us. Like we should have known about this. I should have started this in my late 30s at the
Okay.
latest. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I should have
Yeah.
started it, and I think about where I would be today. Again, it's not about, I'm not trying to look 25. I don't even want to be 25, you know?
No,
I
yeah.
just feel sort of ageless at this point,
Yeah.
and I just want to look like myself, but refreshed and, vibrant and the best version of myself today. So I just wanted to mention the sale in case people were interested. I think this product is going to become as important to women in midlife and a little earlier, the same way sunscreen is, the same way tretinoin, understanding the science that, this is giving us something we're actually losing that's natural to us.
Exactly.
Um,
But
so,
that's the thing is like when you go into menopause or you start your hormone levels start to fluctuate, like you can usually see when, in particular, when women really kind of cross over and start to look older, right? And that doesn't actually need to happen because the only reason why that is happening is that they're losing estrogen in their skin.
right,
And
right.
so it is, I mean, if you look at public at like PubMed and different studies, there's a term, estrogen deprived skin. That is
Hmm.
what it is. And
Yeah.
so you're just giving enough back in order to allow your skin cells to continue to work optimally. And skin is really important. It's not just about cosmetics. It's actually protecting your body from toxins and pathogens that are out in the world. And so the stronger your skin barrier is, the thicker it is, the less that it tears or rips or gets dry and irritated and flaky, the better your overall health will be. Your skin is your largest organ. So the fact that we sort of ignore it or that we put back all these foreign agents that introduce foreign agents that aren't something that our body makes naturally makes no sense when there is something that our body, made, lost, and as a result, there are consequences and symptoms from that loss of
Hmm.
estrogen. When you add it back, we now know we've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt with this study, and that really backs up um, all of the other information that we know about estrogen, that it's safe, it's effective, and it's something that women can really have in their arsenal, sort of for the rest of their
Yeah.
lives to keep
And
this organ healthy.
so, somebody asked any plans for a body moisturizer. I just want to answer this very quickly and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay.
Um, I actually have used it on my body. I used it on my stomach. And some of the people in my community have seen the really dramatic before and afters from using it. It was for 8 weeks. And I am 50 years old, and about 9 months ago, the skin on my body, especially my stomach, just went to complete effing hell. That's the only way I can say. Like, I was like mad about it to see like this is happening to me. And so when I started using it on my face a few weeks later, I was like, you know what? I'm seeing really good, sort of initial results. Let me try using it on some of my body parts. And I used it on my stomach and just had a phenomenal
Not
improvement. So
surprised.
for
Yeah,
the person who was asking, can you use it on another body part? I
absolutely.
think this
Yeah.
study, Monica, shows that yes, you
Yeah,
can, because you're not going to be at risk. There's no systemic absorption, and that it's
exactly.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's a very low dose, and I think that's something that we're obviously looking into. If we're going to introduce a body cream, we will do the science beforehand to show that even at over a larger surface area at this low dose, it's still not absorbed systemically, and I think that that's important information to have. And it's as you mentioned before, it's expensive to do these studies, and it takes a long time. We started working on this in September of last year. So we've been sort of sitting on pins and needles. It was, as we mentioned before, it was blinded, so it's not like we could get information in the meantime. So that's
Mhm.
why we were so thrilled when the stats came back as prominent, sort of pronounced as they did. Like 80% improvement in hydration from the placebo is that's a pretty big improvement in
Yeah,
hydration, you know. And
yeah.
there are people who still will want to use an extra moisturizer. That's fine. I mean, everybody
Mhm.
should have the routine that feels good to them
Yeah,
at this stage of your life. You are allowed to make decisions and, you know, uh, like determine your own sort of, whether it's risk profile, benefit profile, like what is it that you want to get out of the next 50 years of your life, and you know, and be deliberate in that.
that's
And
right.
I would
Yeah.
like to have good skin for the rest of my life, so I'm going to continue to use it M4
Yeah,
forever.
me too. I just said they're gonna have to take it out of my dead hand. Like I will
Totally.
be using it essentially for the rest of my life, just like I plan to be on HRT. You know, it's kind of the same
Forever.
sort of thing. Yeah, yeah.
100%.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing the details of the study. I think it's going to give people a lot of assurance that they are going to be okay using a topical estrogen product. And we just need more information like this, solid scientific data for women and women's health. So I am so grateful to Alloy that you guys have put the resources into a high quality study like this.
Yeah.
So thank you, Monica, very much.
Thank you. Yeah, we're thrilled to be able to be in the position to do it and to give these really innovative, great products back to women and
Mhm.
put them in their hands.
Yeah.
So it's so exciting. I've been, as I said, working on this has been my baby for the last 9 months, and I'm so thrilled that it's now out in the wild and we can go from
Yeah.
here.
Well, share it with everyone. So I'm going to save this Instagram live and
Perfect.
it will be on my page. It will also be on Alloys
Yep.
and on yours, Monica, I think. So thank you. And everyone have a great day. If you have more questions, leave them in the comments. And once I
Definitely.
post it, and I will try to follow up and answer as many as I can. So thank you guys so much for
Thank
joining.
you.
Bye. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Bye.